We are strong. We build. Innovate. And open new frontiers. But now mankind is under threat. Forces of chaos unleashed. They'll bring us to the brink of extinction. Amidst the chaos of an unforgiving planet, most species will fail. But for one, all the pieces will fall into place. And a set of keys will unlock a path for mankind to triumph. This is our story, the story of all of us. Northern China, 1215 AD. The Mongols are coming. 50,000 warriors. The world's greatest cavalry army. Their leader? Genghis Khan. One of the bloodiest warlords in human history. His target? Chengdu. Today's Beijing, China's capital city. Cities are key to the story of mankind. Centers of power, learning, and wealth. They need protecting. Chengdu has 18 miles of battlements, 40 feet high. It's still vulnerable to attack. Half a million people live in Chengdu. Now, a battle for the future of mankind between the city dweller and the nomad. Genghis Khan, son of a tribal chief. His father was murdered. He was sent into exile.
If you survive a childhood like Genghis Khan, you're gonna have a chip on your shoulder. You're gonna wanna prove to everybody they were wrong. You're gonna wanna prove that you know what you're doing. You're gonna wanna prove that you're the baddest guy on the block.
He escapes his captors, fights his way to the top, unites the Mongols, and begins a campaign of conquest that will change the world. The key to his success? The horse. Domesticated 5,000 years earlier in Central Asia, horses have expanded mankind's frontiers. The Mongols can cover up to 300 miles in a day. Using the horse for warfare unlocks a new key for mankind.
If we go back to the Mongols fighting against the Chinese, what we see is the first trip point in a history that will eventually bring us to the tank. And that trip point is horses.
Mongols start on horseback, age 3. They learn to ride without using reins.
Well, when they encountered humans on foot, to the Mongols, those humans were a lot like sheep. You could scare them, you could bully them, they'd run.
They can shoot at full gallop.
It's the first version of the Blitzkrieg. It is being able to ride into a place, do damage, and then disappear before anybody even knows what hit them.
Mongol warriors have 4 horses each. They can eat and sleep on horseback. No army will travel so far and so fast until World War II.
They would travel faster than the news of their arrival.
Climate change is one of the keys to the human story and drives the Mongols to change the world. "93 million miles from Earth, a surge in solar activity. Blasts of radiation scorch the planet. It's the beginning of 3 centuries of global warming.
Climatic changes in the ancient world, in the pre-modern world, directly affected historical events.
In Mongolia, drought turns pasture into desert. To survive, the Mongols sweep south towards China, the great power in Asia, home to the biggest cities in the world.
China is the great prize. If you can conquer China, you conquer the land of infinite supplies. Grain, of silk, of tea. China is the richest prize that Mongols can possibly take.
Approaching Chengdu, Genghis Khan issues an ultimatum. Surrender or die. Mongol cruelty is legend. Prisoners decapitated. Towers of human skulls. Children slaughtered.
I imagine for someone sitting in a city, looking out over the wall, and seeing the massive Mongol horde is coming in your direction, you have to immediately question yourself as to why am I still in this city? I need to leave or I am dead.
Genghis Khan raped so many women that as many as 1 in 200 people alive today carry his genes.
The greatest happiness is to gather into your bosom your enemies' wives and daughters.
60,000 women, it is said, prefer suicide to being raped by the Mongols. Their horses get the Mongols to the city gates, but no further. To take the city, they use Chinese engineers and force them to build battering rams. Prisoners of war attacking their own city. To defend themselves, Chengdu's soldiers must kill their own people. If the gate breaks, the city falls. The Mongols overrun Chengdu, massacre over 100,000 people, then torch the city.
The Mongols were an unbelievably effective military force. If they had a target they wanted to take, no one stood in their way.
An eyewitness reports.
The earth was greasy with human fat.
In his lifetime, Genghis Khan is said to be responsible for the death of up to 40 million people, as many as Adolf Hitler. He conquers more land in 25 years than Rome did in 400. 4.5 million square miles. The largest empire so far in human history. And the key to its success, communication. "600 years before the Pony Express, the Mongols can send messages by horseback across an area twice the size of the United States. Every 30 miles, a relay post with 400 horses. Government messengers carrying an official medallion can claim food in a fresh mount, the world's first passport.
As a result of Genghis Khan's conquests, for the first time in history, one can safely travel from one end of the world to the other end.
Paper, printing, and gunpowder will head from east to west. All keys to the future of mankind. But at the same time, a killer is on the loose that'll wipe out up to half of Europe's population. Mankind battles an enduring enemy, disease. Issyk-Kul, a trading post, midway between Europe and Asia. Genghis Khan has been dead for more than a century, but his empire continues. Along its trade routes, a deadly traveler. Bacteria. For 3.5 billion years, virtually every corner of the Earth has been covered by these microorganisms. Our own bodies contain more bacterial cells than human cells. Most are harmless, many are essential, but these have the power to kill. At Issyk-Kul, a pandemic begins. One of the first recorded victims, Kutluk. Married, Christian, doomed. His wife's folk remedies have no effect.
Imagine your husband comes back from trading and he has these big blue blisters. He feels ill. Is it from the air? Is it from the water he drank? Is it some foreign animal inside of him? What's going on? You're completely confused.
Bacteria rush through Kutluk's bloodstream. They outwit his immune system and spread relentlessly, distorting and swelling his glands. His skin erupts in giant pus-filled sores, buboes, bubonic plague. passed on by an almost invisible carrier. The flea. Its staple diet is blood. When it bites, it vomits plague bacteria into the bloodstream. Kutluck's wife doesn't know it, but she too has been bitten. Within days, both of them will be dead. In 1337, 4 people die in Issyk-Kul. 2 years later, there are 100 deaths. But this is just the beginning.
Once they've spread, these infections don't stop. Improved transportation makes diseases almost impossible to control.
The fleas that carry the plague hitch a lift from one of our closest companions, the black rat. Native to Asia, they spread to Europe with the Romans. From a pair of rats, 2,000 new offspring a year. And every rat can carry 8 plague-infected fleas. Black rats infest the cargo that travels along the Mongol trade routes. Spreading out from Issyk-Kul, the plague sweeps east to China and west towards Europe. Kaffa on the Black Sea, a thriving port at the crossroads of East and West, controlled by Italian merchants. One man is credited with speeding the plague into Europe. A descendant of Genghis Khan, Jani Beg. He murdered his own brother to seize power. Now he wants to expand the Mongol Empire westwards. Kaffa stands in his way. But he has a terrible new weapon. The plague kills his soldiers faster than they can be replaced. But that gives Jani Beg an idea. His dead men become ammunition.
Biological warfare wasn't entirely new. In the 6th century BC, both the Assyrians and the Greeks used to poison wells. But at Kaffa, the Mongols took it another stage. They launched it physically, like a chemical bomb.
Biological weapons are so deadly, they've been outlawed in 165 countries, including Russia and the United States. But it is thought more than enough remain to wipe out mankind at a stroke. No one has ever used biological weapons like Jani Beg. One chronicler writes,
What seemed like mountains of dead were thrown into the city. The rotting corpses tainted the air. The stench was overwhelming.
There can be no weapon that is as terrifying as what is unleashed with biological warfare. You cannot see germs. You cannot see disease. And nothing you can do can make you immune to it.
The inhabitants of Kaffa try to outrun the plague and flee to Europe. They have no idea they're bringing the disease with them. The plague, en route to the world's most densely populated continent. Siena, Italy, 1348. A family locks itself in, hoping to lock the disease out. The father writes an account, one of the only surviving records, as the invasion of Europe begins.
It was a cruel and horrible thing. I don't know where to begin to tell of its brutal and pitiless ways.
The battle for the survival of mankind has begun. Mankind faces a battle against extinction. Siena, Italy. 6 months after the plague invades Europe, thousands are dead. Agnolo di Tura, local businessman, the town chronicler. He barricades his family inside their home. The killer outside must not come in. Agnolo uses fire and smoke to ward off the plague. No one suspects it's carried by rats.
You don't know what the real cause is. It could be in the air, it could be in the water. And so you have this sensation around you of something building up, but you don't know what it is.
The plague takes 10 years to cross Asia, moving slowly from village to village. But Europe is the perfect breeding ground. Hundreds of cities, 80 million people living in close quarters.
These cities had all the conditions to sustain plague, the filth, the squalor, the rodents that were just considered part of natural life at that point, and nobody considered that these rodents and their fleas could potentially be a problem. And then you had this massive number of people all packed together in these small dwellings, and it was the exact sort of situation you would want if you were trying to cause a plague epidemic.
The plague has entered Agnolo's home, infecting his wife, Nicoluccia.
If you've ever seen bubonic plague, it's very gross. A huge purple growth takes place, which creates psychological trauma, havoc, and incredible fear.
Agnolo tries anything, everything.
Vomit regularly, especially at the first sign of any illness.
Drink a glass of your own urine twice a day. Apply an ointment to the bubo made of honey, egg yolks, and scorpion oil to draw out the poison.
Avoid sex and baths.
Finally, the plague doctor. His hood filled with herbs for protection. His treatment: drain the disease out of the victim.
Physicians would try any desperate measure that could work. Bloodletting was tried, leeches were used, but none seemed to work. In fact, the smartest thing a doctor could do is stay away from the patients, because inadvertently we were taking the bacteria from one patient to the next.
All the while, the plague bacteria are mutating, finding new ways to reproduce and spread. They no longer need to be carried by fleas. They are airborne.
The airborne plague is fundamentally different because it now can be transmitted from human being to human being.
The kill rate was 75%. Now, nearly 100. In 6 months, 31,000 people, 60% of Siena, wiped out.
More than 2 out of every 3 persons you knew in Siena were gone. Families decimated, clans decimated, everybody decimated.
I, Agnolo de Tora, buried my children with my own hands. There was no one who wept for any death, for all awaited death. So many died that all believed it was the end of the world.
Fear and panic sets in, and you're asking yourself, what's causing this? Did I do something wrong? Did I forget to go to church? And each symptom seems like the devil is doing it.
The overwhelming theory was an avenging God. Somehow, this was the anger of God causing this disease.
Now, disaster tests mankind's faith. Avignon, France. Home to Pope Clement VI. One of the most powerful men in the world, controlling vast armies and enormous wealth.
When plague hits Avignon, the people expected the Pope to come to their salvation, to go and intercede to God to stop the plague.
But Clement VI can't stop the plague. It devastates Avignon, killing 1,300 people in a single day. Pope Clement buys a field and buries 11,000 people. But it is not enough. He tries a radical solution. He consecrates the River Rhone as a floating cemetery.
As bodies floated down the Rhone River, people realized the Pope could do nothing for them. Either God wasn't listening,
or worse.
Fear and loss turn to rage. The mob wants someone to blame. All over Europe, the hunt is on for a scapegoat. (1349), the plague rages across Europe. Mankind is at its weakest and most irrational, searching for someone to blame. Strasbourg, Germany. The plague hasn't hit here yet, but rumors spread faster than the disease itself of a diabolical plot. They say the Jews are poisoning the drinking water.
This was the Middle Ages. This was before the scientific revolution and the scientific method. You had a world that was rife of superstition, anger, confusion, and unfortunately, that often bubbled off into prejudice.
Ever since the 6th century BC, when their homeland was conquered, Jewish people have created thriving communities around the planet. Today, 26 countries have Jewish populations over 10,000. When fear grips mankind, minorities are an easy target. The authorities in Strasbourg try to protect them, posting guards in their streets. But isolation breeds contempt. The mob takes the law into its own hands.
Geh schnell! Schnell!
February 14th, a St. Valentine's Day massacre. The Jews of Strasbourg are given a choice: convert or die. "1,000 Jews are burned alive. But the massacre does nothing to save the city. 5 months later, the plague arrives, claiming another 16,000 victims. All over Europe, great cities lie deserted. An eyewitness reports,
shops are shut, people rare. A deep silence in almost every place. Consider what we were and what we've become. There was a crowd of us. Now we're alone.
Mankind rendered powerless by tiny bacteria. Across Asia and Europe, the plague kills over 50 million people in 15 years. But isolation can protect us. The Atlantic Ocean has stopped the plague reaching the Americas. The key to mankind's future in the hands of visionary leaders. 200 years after Genghis Khan, a young Inca warrior prepares himself for battle. Pachacuti. Courageous, dynamic, inspired. A vision of the sun god drives him into a mighty battle that will create the empire of the Incas.
Pachacuti had an enormous sense of himself. The name means world shaker. He gave himself the name, I am the conqueror of the world.
The Americas are home to 90 million people, living in total isolation from the rest of mankind. In this new world, there are no horses. They've been hunted to extinction. No iron tools. No wheeled vehicles. But the key to life in the Andes, high-altitude agriculture.
This is a mountainous people, a mountainous society. And so if you want to have available farmland, you have to build terraces along the mountain slopes. And when you go through the Andes today, you see the remains of terraces everywhere.
Thousands of feet above sea level, they cultivate crops totally unknown to the rest of the world. Potatoes, tomatoes, corn. "60 years later, the Spanish will bring these superfoods back to Europe. A key moment in shaping the diet of mankind. But the riches of their land make the Incas a target. To keep their territory, they need to defend it. Pachacuti will have to fight against a fearsome enemy, led by a dead king. The story of mankind is shaped by men of destiny. Pachacuti, leader of the Incas. His enemy, the Chancas, bloodthirsty warriors. They use the bones of their enemies as trophies. Their goal? Crush Pachacuti and capture the Inca capital, Cusco. Leading the Chancas into battle, Uzcavilca. Powerful, ruthless, and dead. In life, he initiated the Chanca reign of terror. In death, he speaks through his priests.
In the Andes, the ancestors are very much present in people's lives. And so important people are mummified.
Long before the Egyptians, the people of South America preserved their dead. Children, adults, whole families. The oldest mummies have survived for 7,000 years. With Uzcavilca leading them, Chanca warriors feel invincible. They outnumber the Incas and take no prisoners. But Pachacuti has a plan.
The goal was to try to capture the mummified body of your enemy. If you could topple Uzcavilca, then victory was yours.
He believes in something more powerful than Uzcavilca. Inti, the sun god. the most important god in Inca mythology. The night before the battle, Inti comes to him in a dream and promises him a glorious victory.
Pachacuti seizes the idea of portraying himself as the living sun, Inti himself, embodied by the power of the sun.
Pachacuti's father has fled. His brother has fled. But he chooses to stay and lead the Incas into battle.
You go about proving yourself to your men by setting the example and saying, you know what? I might die today, but that's okay, because I was born to do this. And I guarantee it, every true leader that's ever went into combat has felt that way.
Pachacuti taunts the Chancas, stoking their anger. He holds his men back, maintains their discipline, until they unleash a volley of stones.
Every time I went into combat, it had everything to do with the will to win. That's what wins battles.
Pachacuti makes his move. Inca legend recalls his bravery.
The young prince threw himself at the enemy. He was so agile and fast, he terrified Izcavilca's bodyguards.
Chancas, vanquished.
The Incas' victory over the Chancas was legendary. They never stopped talking about it. They never stopped celebrating it.
Pachacuti will kickstart the biggest empire ever seen in the Americas. Most of modern-day Chile, Bolivia, and Peru united under Inca rule. And to link their territory, a network of trails stretching 25,000 miles over some of the steepest terrain on Earth. At the end of the trail, Machu Picchu, Pachacuti's palace in the clouds, unknown to the rest of mankind. But the isolation of the Americas is coming to an end. In Europe, survivors of the plague will rebuild, launching a new era of conquest and exploration. That'll lead to the discovery of the New World.